Welcome to On the Entrepreneur's Journey, the podcast where we explore how seasoned leaders and founders build strong, scalable companies. I'm Peter Santry, a former Wall Street exec turned into leadership team coach, and today's guest has one of the most compelling stories I've heard yet. Jeremy Barker is a multi-time entrepreneur, real estate investor, EMT, firefighter, and most recently founder and CEO of Murphy Door, a company transforming functional spaces with innovative hidden door solutions. Jeremy's journey spans early successes, a financial crisis-induced bankruptcy, and a gritty comeback that led to building a thriving US-based manufacturing business. Today, we'll dive into the lessons he learned, the creative strategies he used to fuel Murphy Door's growth, and the vision that drives him forward. So welcome to the show, Jeremy.
Hey, thank you so much for having me, Peter. I'm excited. I appreciate your time and your willingness to have me on.
Good. Well, let's get right into it. We talked about how you made a fortune early and you were riding pretty high, and then the financial crisis came, and really through no fault of your own, except maybe you picked some bad financial institutions. Your world came crashing down. And I was hoping you could just give us a little bit of background in your story and then how that informed you to pick yourself up and get back into the game.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate that. So that's kind of a blended two-story part. So I've been bankrupt actually twice.
Oh,
I've had 2 times of bankruptcy. And so the first time, I wish I could say it was no fault of my own, but it was 100% fault of my own. Too much money too early, a lack of awareness and understanding of financials and cost of goods sold and all the other things that go to run a business. We did smashing success in most people's opinion. A lot of companies don't even get there, but we got there at 21 years old, breaking over 20 million in annual revenue. And without even really understanding business, right? It becomes difficult. All I knew is that's a lot of money coming in, and I wasn't disciplined enough to put it where it was supposed to go in the right buckets. And I just thought, look at all this money, let's go play and have fun. And it doesn't pan out very well when the music stops, and then you have to jump off and figure out what you're going to do with it. So that led to my first one. My exit strategy initially was I'm going to sell because this is so much headache. I got to get out of it. At the time, we had all the Home Depots. We were selling them wooden storage sheds outside, and that you buy the normal lawn and garden shed. What you'd see tough shed now today is what they were. So. And that went quick, but I thought, well, I'll sell a franchise. But I had no idea about franchise law, or I didn't know how to set it up. I just thought if someone carried your brand and did it over there, they'd pay you money. And I didn't use legal advice or any of that crap. It's just young. And that guy he swooped right in, bought my Arizona plant, and ended up getting all the money Home Depot owed me. And then he opened a bank account called Old Frontier Shed Company is what it was called. And I'm like, well, it was not my name, but he put a previous name to it. And the bank went ahead and let him have the money. The smart thing at the time would have been to run into the bank and say, hey, you put the wrong bank, you check in the wrong bank. But then at that point, I sought legal advice. And the attorney's like, whoa, don't jump like that. There's some damages here. We can sue for damages. We can get more money. This guy's got more money. Let's go after him. Well, for sure, the one thing I learned from that was a lot, if you're going to sue for damages, more than likely you're going to have to suffer them. And so I spent 15 months suffering damages to the point where I ran out of money to pay my attorney anymore. And then he, of course, didn't want to work for free. So then I just decided, hey, we're going to close up shop. And I had to kind of go do a refind of myself at that point, and lived in my car for a year after that, and kind of 6 months of hell, kind of, just sitting in there trying to hate yourself for a bit. And then after that, it was about 6 months of wonderful. I really became my own best friend and really was appreciating the lessons I learned through my lack of discipline and management of that. But more importantly, I think what I learned the most was the arrogance that got in the way of my ability to learn. Like, I think what happens when you make money really, really fast, and you see that a lot on Instagram and all the other crap today, is they go buy the Ferraris and planes and all the cool things, which we all did. And it makes it so you feel like you're better than other people, regardless of their age. And I think it's weird now. Money has a weird feeling to me. I don't know how real it is in my head. Like it's fairly easy to make once you figure out the recipe. But it's like this non-tangible thing that makes people feel emotionally that they're better or worse than someone else. It's a weird deal. But at that point in my life, I felt better than everyone, right? I'm like, you can't teach me anything, Peter. What do you know? What did you do the time that you're 21? And that's so I was shutting off great advice from really smart people. And then after I realized I didn't know anything, was so embarrassed to go backwards and seek the advice on how I could possibly get out of it, which I'm sure would have not been hard. I couldn't do it. I didn't. I was too prideful to be able to go in and ask that and kind of eat crow, and that's kind of hard. You know what I mean? As you look back now, I mean, what comes across my desk every day, Peter, as you know, when we get older, the stuff that led me to be so stressed and not understand, not be able to keep my business afloat, literally hits my desk every day. Like it's those things are just so stressful. Like as you know, right before we got on this podcast deal, we were talking, tens of thousands of dollars in variance that move 100,000 in a 2 days, 200,000. But it's not even a pulse increase anymore. It's just part of the game. You just negotiation, understanding, and it's odd. But I'm so thankful for those lessons that I learned in the middle of that youth. And I think it would have gone wasted if I didn't have the time in my car to really get grounded. And I didn't have kids, thank goodness. I didn't have a wife and I didn't have any of that to really get back to say, hey, you know what? Now you have to look at yourself in the mirror. There's no distractions with no cell phones, and you had no money to distract you. You had nothing, no friends really. I was delivering RVs for RV companies, and ironically enough, you can't sleep in those because they're new, right? So you had to sleep in the backseat of your truck, and that was what I was doing for money. And it really wasn't much money; it was enough to buy gas and maybe a hot dog. But um, I sat there, and I finally decided I was going to inventory all my bad decisions and to see where I could have gone left or right that may have changed the outcome. And fortunately for me, they were very obvious. You know what I mean? The mistakes I made were so obvious. They weren't kind of like little teeny minor mistakes like choosing the wrong partner or any of that stuff. I mean, that's a big mistake, but just something um it was something you could actually identify, and I did that, and then I forgave myself for that. And then I went through the process. So the second bankruptcy that you referred to was I then, part of my process came back, worked in construction, worked as a superintendent, started my own housing side, then started in excavation, doing heavy, big development, underground commercial buildings, a lot of residential homes. And then that's when the banks went bankrupt. And I felt, no, uh, that second bankruptcy, I felt not bad about a bit. I still to this day have no remorse. I couldn't have steered that in any direction. I mean, could I have done things different? Yep, I could have required more from the developers out up front, more money flowing freely, put them on credit hold when cash wasn't coming in. But even those developers, they chose the bad bank, right? And I just say, hey, do you have financing? Yep, here it is. It's with Barnes, it's Centennial or whatever. And those banks were really solid banks at the time. And you're not going to go deeper and say how good's the bank, right? It's like the bank's the bank. In our hearts as Americans, we feel like the banks are the end all be all. For hell's sake, they got the biggest buildings in every city. So um, that's one I don't feel bad about.
Right. So really the lessons were you're too young, and then sort of the humility and taking the inventory and forgiving yourself and saying, okay, the water's under the dam and I gotta dust myself off. Let me go for it. And then with the second business, of course, with the financial crisis, when your lender goes out of business, there's no money coming to you.
Right,
And so, that's a tough lesson because yes, who would know? Who would have thought that? Uh,
right.
and then so then you go back and then you become a
Firefighter, paramedic. Yep, I got my degree in paramedicine post that.
and
Yep.
then so you do that from this is like 08, 09 to 16. You're
Yep.
doing all that. And then what made you decide to go back into the game? What was the opportunity you saw? You certainly hadn't amassed a vast amount of capital at that point.
No,
So
I was running super negative, actually. It was running worse and worse and worse. So uh, I wish it was some beautiful story of like what led my vision to go run into the business again. One thing I knew, like I grew that construction company to over almost 30 million, not over, but almost 30 million annually. I knew I did that in sheds at 20 million. I mean, that's two eight-figure companies with no education. And that's about 4.4% of all businesses get there. And without much training, you've been able to achieve that. And that's not a pat yourself on your back, but you knew what to do, kind of thing. And so I love fire. I started playing in fire in 1993, left, did that shed business, and it's always kind of been the emergency blanket. It doesn't pay a lot, but it's secure, and you have a great family, and they're great humans, and it's the best job you could ever want. So when I was working at Royce City Fire here in Utah, um, I did not have a desire to leave at all. Like, I loved my job. Like, that job was the job that was meant to be. However, my power was turned off every other month. I had no money for food and cars, and so it was more of a necessity of like, hey, look, I need to look for something different. I'm tired of working 3 different jobs, 2 fire jobs, working cement, construction, whatever it took. I would do anything, door-to-door sales, to just try to pay my bills. I'm not afraid of work. 500 hours a month is not abnormal for me. That's okay, and I'm great with it. I really feel like, I know you're going to hear people say, well, he needs to learn work-life balance, and I'm like, oh, that's a fake thing. Like, what if it's anyway? I've compressed my work in the first 50. Now at this stage of my life, I don't ever have to work again if I choose not to, I guess. But at the same time, I decided to start being aware and understanding what I could do. I had a great mentor. His name was John Porter, that took me for a walk. I was doing door-to-door sales for him around his complex. He goes, Jeremy, you're not meant for this. We need to, if I gave you a little bit of money, I want you to think of a business that you would do, that I could invest in, because I think you could do something amazing. You shouldn't be here. And he goes, fire's not your answer. And so I ended up going for a walk with him. And this is in 2012, by the way, 2011, maybe, was the
Hmm.
walk. And he walked around the parking lot, and he says, hey, I also think you're a product guy. He's like, when I look at you, he goes, your product. You need to look about how to get what product. And man, I had no clue. I had no idea what it was. So I ended up working door to door with a guy that was doing some type of like secret room stuff. And I'm like, man, that's awesome. I want to build one for my theater room. And when I say theater room, I got to keep you in mind, this is a firefighter level theater room. We're talking 4 fold out chairs and a bigger TV that gets
Right.
black, that's blacked out so people can see the TV. I mean, I just wanted, knowing I had the worst movie room in my neighborhood or in that area that I live, I had to make a really cool entry to the bad theater room that would be fun for the kids. So I envisioned a ticket booth style door for my kids to put tickets through, that their friends could then come into the movie room. And so I went into the little journey of how I create that with this type of concept. And um, there we go. Now you have Murphy Door with almost 1 billion organic views last year.
Wow.
So kind of a ride.
So it was just to give your kids a nice, cool way to go in and see TV and,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, get in there. And so you started out. But, as we said, you didn't have really two nickels to rub together. And so
no.
how did you get the capital? I mean, you had your credit rating must not have been good.
Yeah, I was sub 500.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah,
we're sitting here and it's like, okay. And this is what's so great about the story is that with no capital and no credit rating, it's like, okay, how am I going to finance this concept and how am I going to get the money and the wherewithal to be able to actually, produce something? And I love this part of your story because it's so creative and it's been replicated by Michael Dell and others,
yeah.
where he did as well. And here you are. And so tell us about that.
I'm going to tell you about that, but before we get off this, I'm going to show you a closing statement that I just got a text popped up that said approved done. So I'll show you this closing statement to show you how you can do something with nothing, and not only get something for nothing, but get paid to get it. So you're
Uh,
going to look at this. You'll be the first one to see this, because this I'm going to take all over social. But you're the first guy to hear it. It just barely happened while we're talking. So what I did, like, obviously I have no money. I feel like this is going to come across, especially from someone like you, highly educated, Wall Street Journal. Um, Education's great, and I think it's important. But there's 2 levels of education. You have education and you have experience, right? And something happens in experience that doesn't happen in education, which is the stress test, right? You don't education, you learn some navigational if this then that statements and some algorithmic responses to whatever you're studying, whether it be medicine or finance or whatever. We learn the if this then that's, right? Like, if this happens, do this, if that, and
Right.
we aren't able to do that in the non-educated world. But what we do understand is when something hurts, don't freaking put your finger there or put your hand out. You know what I mean? Like, okay, don't do that again. So um, when Frontier went into rough spaces, you end up getting really creative financing ways. Because, and again, I was robbing Peter to pay Paul, truly. Like I was overspending and under saving and using pre-sold units to do this. So um, I knew that there was ways to finance things in without banks and without that. This is like pre-Kickstarter game. Websites. This is 2012 when we first started playing with it. 2013, Facebook still kind of young. All the stuff is still kind of new. Websites were going. There was web sales, but they weren't as robust as they are today. I
Right.
thought, well, you know what we're going to do is I can't afford anything. I'm going to work on some type of website that does do some type of transaction. I'm going to pre-sell doors. I don't have any money to go even with 50%. I have to go hire a subcontractor to build the cabinets and build the hardware and all this stuff that I need to be paid up front 100%, which I'm going to just put this up there and we're going to say the price with high margins. So by the way, my first door started plus $3,000 for the basic, what we call flush mount door today. A paint grade door was $3,000, which now you can get for 1,400 bucks for me. Made here in the US. They're not made overseas. They're all by me, but so we popped it up, and I knew that I needed to, if I'm going to have, let's just say the Beatles in concert, we've got to advertise. So I had to have a really large marketing budget. 33% is what we ran with. And then I knew that what my costs were with my other vendors, and I left a little bit of money for whatever. So two things: I built my website, demanded 100% payment up front.
Mhm.
And then they had lead times. And what I realized, and something is unique when you monopolize the market. I know that people hate monopoly word. When you're starting business, start a monopoly if you can. Like, be the
Mhm.
only one, and then you set the terms, expectations, price. You set everything up on your own. It gives you a superpower that other people don't have. If you're in a competitive market, you're fighting price to the bottom and whatever. This
Right.
doesn't give you that.
So your product in and of itself, there was nobody out there doing it. And
No,
so if $3,000 was what it took to get a hidden door, people were going
that's
to
all
pay
it
it.
took.
Cool, and
Yep.
nobody else was out there doing it.
Yeah, exactly. So I just had to do my own thing, and that's what I did. And so I put prices up, and then the first one, we started with hardware. So I want to first say I invented the hardware that went out, and then that thing did 30 grand the first year. The second year, people started asking for doors, and I'm like, oh well, look, I don't make cabinets. I made the one door at my house, and it turned out horrific. So I'm gonna have to find a cabinet guy to help me do this. And then we decided to add the door, and we added one door, and at the time we just offered like three sizes because it couldn't be like mass customization.
Right.
'Cause it wasn't me manufacturing, couldn't do on demand. So I found a local cabinet guy, helped me design that. And we set a price and we were selling it, we did 30,000 the first year and we did 110,000 the second year. And then we did 1.1 million the third year. And again, that was still full-time fire. And I'm like, whoa. And 30,000, by the way, was great because I had great margins on my hardware. It was like 500%. And so I felt like I was just doubled up. I just doubled up my money. And then the next year, I'm like, okay, that's really good. And then the following year, I'm like, we're on to something. But we'd get one or two sales. You sell two doors a week. That's 6,000, 24,000 a month, really quick. And then it goes to four doors a week and five doors, and then eight, and you're starting to see this expound. And that's kind of one of the things I love about high ticket businesses, like a higher ticket price. I'm not saying I'm 100,000, but 3 to 50,000 is a pretty normal ticket for us. It makes it so you don't necessarily have to shuffle cookies at $3, right? So
Right.
that's a lot of work for $3. And so anyway, I started to see this money come in, and I realized that it didn't matter what my lead times were either. Like, yes, the faster the lead times, the easier the sell. However, I could be 16 weeks out and I'm still selling. So when I got into financial crunches, all I would do is say, hey, I'm going to do a sell of like 15% off, and I'm going to extend my lead times internally, felicitously, like falsely. They're not that far out, but I need a little more cash flow. So I'm going to go from 8 weeks to 12 weeks. and that gives me like a 1 month bridge from my from my customer with their capital. Again, I really did a great job of managing the cost of goods sold. So we always had our cost of goods sold in reserves. That's pretty managed by the bank and by my accountants fairly tight, because we don't want to ever get upside down. You either owe them the money or you owe them a door. So we want to make sure that stays right. But um, I learned from my previous experience, COGS are sacred, just like sales tax and payroll tax. Those are any business and owners out there. Those three do not touch. Just don't
Yeah,
touch them. They're not yours. Don't touch
right.
them. Right. So
There's a,
sales tax. Right. Go ahead.
I was saying you were reserving for them, you're putting money away for that.
A
All.
hundred percent.
So
Yeah.
it sounds like, I mean, the product was such that you had some pricing power really to
Yep.
that you could do. People trusted you to make the delivery, and you were the only person out there doing it. So it was like, okay, well, I'll give them the money, and the door's going to come, and it's 8 weeks or 12 weeks, and that was good, and you were able to adjust that to make sure the cash flow worked. And so that just came together, and then.
Well, I'll tell you this, though. You say they trust you to do it. One of my cheats was I marketed heavily that I was a firefighter paramedic.
Uh,
It's a huge thing to bring consumer faith that you're going to do. I'm like, look, dude, I'm a firefighter paramedic. I work for this city. I'm here. Like this is, I'm a very much not going to take advantage of anybody, right? So, anyway, that helped, and not everybody has that opportunity, but just make sure you leverage that your moral compass is good enough. You share that, and you show your empathy and faith, and recognize that people are giving you $3,000. Listen how hard this is. A GI picture, a CGI picture, or a Pinterest picture that people have never physically seen themselves, that they're going to buy from a company that's in Utah, which is not our customer base, and they're going to wait 8 to 12 weeks to get it, up to
yeah,
16 weeks, and I'm going to pay me up front 3 to 10,000 at the time for that product, and have full faith that you can do it.
right.
That's a
And
big ask.
yeah, no, that is a big ask. And the angle that you were a firefighter EMT and it was verifiable was probably the thing that nudged it over to the top to allow that to happen, which
Hmm.
and you had that horrible experience with, being in the bank, and the bank, all of a sudden, couldn't fund anymore, and you didn't have any money to start with. So it was kind of born out of necessity, and sort of, I give you credit for coming up with that and really
It was like a Kickstarter program in my heart, right? I'm like, I'm going to create my own Kickstarter. In addition, the other thing that construction helped me learn, Peter, is, in construction, you get paid 30, 60, 90 days out, and you're in full faith that that contractor you're working for is going to pay you. To
right.
this day, Murphy Door does not have a contractor account. Even as big as we are, no one but Home Depot and Amazon have a credit account here. We won't do it.
Right,
It's just a no. I don't care if you're going to drop me $1 million PO. That'll just give me more of a reason to say no. 1 million reasons to say no.
right.
That we don't do the half down game to this day. We have just made our terms. I don't care if you come in here and say you're Warren Buffett. Awesome. Then you have the money to pay for it. You know what I
Certainly,
mean?
he certainly does. So then, we're now out of the three doors, and now we're making now you're doing custom doors,
Yep.
and that sort of creates this need to be able to source, an assortment of wood and all this stuff, hardware, and it leads you to start sourcing. And again, maybe this is serendipitous, but you decide that you're going to source domestically,
Oh
versus,
yeah. Yeah.
you
I
know,
see where you're going.
out of the
Yeah.
four.
Out of need, man. Like I didn't have the ability to go overseas. I
Yeah,
didn't. And honestly, that's one of the things that I had problems with Zion's Bank on, Peter, is they thought it was stupid that I was building a manufacturing plant here. And I shouldn't say they thought it was stupid. They just thought, hey man, that's not the direction that the manufacturing is going. You need to be looking overseas. I'm like, look, dude, I can't afford to buy a container of doors. I'm selling 4 a week, right? So we've never sourced our materials far away. I was doing one piece flow. Like we'd get an order in, order the wood, order the paint, order this, then we go. To this day, still, we do a door every 6 minutes. It's one piece flow.
right.
When you order a door, we order the wood, we order the paint, we order the knobs, and then that stuff shows up tomorrow and it goes that way. Kind of the Toyota way per se. It's like we do one piece flow manufacturing, 100% customized with 300 million variances. And you really have to know what happens before you order it, right? So what we've had to do is learn how to be really good. But here's the cheat. And when COVID came, none of our stuff got affected by tariffs. None of it. We were so stable and built our groups inside the United States. And not only that, we built some pretty good reputation with our wood suppliers and paint suppliers that we never ran out of wood. I mean, thank goodness for like Sierra Forest products and stuff. They kept us in wood when nobody could get any. I had still had train cars coming in. I shouldn't say never. There was a 4-day period that we were pretty worried about lumber, but 4 days out of that whole COVID run was nothing in comparison to what other people went through.
So again, you have to source domestically because, you couldn't afford to do it. And then as you customized, you couldn't order, you had to order a ton of inventory in different colors and or different types of wood, and it might have been stale. So you're building it as you get the order. You're not doing it the other way. You're not inventorying to then build. So you need to, it leads to a domestic or a close by sourcing. And then the one piece flow piece of it actually made it even more important.
100% again, like to your point, uh, furniture companies, for example, they'll order a coffee table and you get to go to the store and it's this size and you can choose from this color or this color. And it's because they had to order 100, 200,000 of them, whatever, right?
Yeah.
They can't order one of every size, one of every color and know what the clients are going to do, especially if it's something newer. What domestic manufacturing does when you're buying from people local or close to you, it not only gives you customizability that no one else can offer that's importing. They can't inventory the quantities. They're cash tight. When you think about this, so this is where I think I learned through my ladder. I also own Murphy Ladder, and what I learned from Ladder is we supplied Home Depot with the Murphy Ladder was not that you have, let's say, Home Depot's tough and people need to be aware of big box, but when you buy 2,000 stores worth of ladders for 15 ladders, I mean, to do the math, right? You're talking about 30, whatever that number is, 30,000 ladders, right? And, or yeah, around 30,000 ladders just out the gate. Well, Home Depot requires what they call a high water level of another 15 to 30,000 ladders in your inventory so you can re-inventory them. Now, what people don't think about is how much ladders is sitting at the port of Long Beach, how much is on the water, how much is at the port of Shanghai, and how much is sitting in manufacturing. And you're paying, 50% down when you order, 50% before it leaves the port of Shanghai. And then if it gets out the port quick or it gets into the boat, it gets off on the water for 18 days, and then the port of Long Beach gets tied up for 90 days, you have this backflow of material, and all of this is your cash. So any of these companies put themselves, and this is why you saw such a flush out in COVID, and it's such a risk of all this inventory that can be piled up and that's been prepaid, which is just your cash going out, hoping that it sells when it arrives. And Ladders had that same struggle. So, it's ironic, like just so you guys know, Murphy Ladder from 0 to 9 months, we're the fastest product ever launched at Home Depot in its history, ever.
Mm,
From 0 to 9 months, we went from a concept ladder to 100 or a full 100% store rollout in all Home Depots nationwide in
wow.
9 months. That includes ANSI, OSHA. And if you think about this, ANSI, OSHA, um, packaging, POP, MET, all the things that you have to go through, the insuring, the manufacturing in China, finding a manufacturer, getting your molds built, and still delivering within 9 months. So we met him in April and we were rolling out in January in that business. So, for example, you can do $15 million in your very first year of business and still lose 3 million. Just so you know, it happens. But
Yeah.
that lesson taught me how much more power and how much more I appreciated Murphy Door. And I'm not using the word power, but the power of having domestic proximity manufacturing. And not only that, for the consumer, the amazing experience it creates. It gives you, Peter, on my website, the ability to say, I want the door to be 31.5 inches, and I want it to be this color with that knob, and I want it to be this tall and this deep, and I want that face, and I want this base, and I want this door, and I want glass here and not here. Like, you get to design everything. And I think That's one hard part about Murphy Door is we can't show everything that you can do because it's just a website. But
Right.
it's we can do whatever you can imagine from your kitchen or bathroom all the way to your hidden doors and beds. But there is such a unique experience to be able to shop from somebody that's our size, that's got the abilities to manufacture what we can manufacture, as well as make it yours. And
Yeah.
that's, I think every product that can lean that way and bring that product manufacturing as close to their consumer as possible, the ability to open up the customization and deliver what the customers truly want, not make them choose from what you thought would be cool,
Right.
is really going
Right.
to change the buyer dynamic.
And that's exactly what Michael Dell did with computers was he would come in, you could customize your computer, what you wanted it, software, uh,
Hmm.
and pay for it, and then he would go and build it and
Yep.
deliver it later, and you know you were financing that, and it leads to a big negative working capital, but you've got the cash, which is great. So then COVID ends, and then of course we've got the current administration, you know, the move to onshore so much product, the tariff situation, as deals are getting struck around the world, and because of the model you built already, you know,
We
you
won again.
yeah, and I'm not going to say that you're not a smart guy, Jeremy, but this is kind of lucky that
100%. I'm gonna give you that. Like I'm not a smart.
yeah,
I'm like, listen, I'm a dirt smart guy. Like
yeah,
I'm not a like educated smart guy. But here's the thing that I wish people could have felt that what it felt like when you're arguing with banks that you're asking to open a credit card with on why it's a good idea to manufacture here. And all I could see was like, I don't have to have 5 months of inventory come across the water. I don't have to buy 200 per container. I can't buy that. I'm a firefighter for heaven's sakes. I can't do that. I got to buy one as I sell one.
right,
And I experienced that from the shed world. And I also knew that I could customize anything and everything in the shed world to my customers' likings. But in addition, like the tariff game, you know, I took it in the shorts on the first tariff run. I'm still pro on that game. I mean, in the sense that I think it'll help companies. They need to think about what we can do close to give our customers a better experience. But not only that, I'm seeing onshoring occur for me, like
right,
Chinese companies reaching out to me to make their stuff here. So it's been a reversal. So I've not been an anti-tariff deal, and I know I've had a lot of people get angry with me. I get invited, and I know that Patrick Bet David's like, everybody hates you, Jeremy. And in the room, I'm like, yeah, I get it. I understand. I do. I get that when from the outside, but when you're experiencing what can happen, even if it takes a little bit of time, what can happen if we structure our manufacturing process in the right way, your companies are better, your customers have a better experience. They get what they want, where they want, when they want. And that's our mantra. We want our customers to have what they want, where they want it, when they want it. And our
yeah.
goal in our mission plan is to create that in everything in their home.
And certainly your you know consumer feedback is giving you that reinforcement that happens.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So, I mean, so you're well positioned, domestic manufacturing, sourcing of supply chain, customer customization, quicker turnaround, and you've got a lead in a market that you kind of created. So let's fast forward today. What are you looking to do in the next 2 to 3 years, in terms of your vision for the business?
Yeah, I love that. So along the way, I'm gonna lead into another piece of my business that we did. It's called purebrand.io. And what I felt like when we're starting, as you look at big box, like that's what young companies want. They're like, hey, if we can land big box, we could sell a million of units, but they don't realize a million of units times -4 cents is still a lot of money in losing. Just, it's just, it's like that old watermelon truck story.
Those big box stores can be a curse, and
It
there's
can be, and it's very difficult to manage. And for very young companies, it's the wrong thing to learn with.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
but what do we want big box for, right? What's the thing you want them for? Eyeballs, right? Showrooming,
yeah,
and you want associates to help showroom. So in our heart, a big, beautiful picture would be like dude, everybody's going to show up to Home Depot. They're going to see my doors. They're going to have this wonderful sales associate walk over and just do all the pitches that I do so well. They're going to be so great at it and sell my doors by the thousands in their 2,000 stores. It's going to be amazing. It's not real at all. Like they don't even know that they sell your product 90% of the time. And if they do, they don't even know what your product does. So I thought, what if we could create something that made it so every time I sold a door, that customer was empowered to become a showroom? And I could make it so my future customers could visit with past customers and they could get a 360 review about how their experience was. And while they're reviewing it, the past customers telling them stuff that they liked and not liked about us. So I'm getting a live review, a live survey with action plans and sentiments about what we could do better for products, what they wish we did different, how we could fix anything. And the future customer would come back and say, hey, I couldn't, I'm asking these questions because I couldn't find this on their website. I didn't know they did this. How could I find this? And you know what I mean? It's a cool little way. So we built this brand called purebrand.io that is an app on Shopify currently. So companies that that have the need for showrooming, every time they sell a customer something, they get invited to become a host to talk to future customers and give them a 360 review. They can choose to pay them a little money or pay them with store credit to buy in the future and stack it. And then, the past customer gets paid, the future customer gets a little discount for talking to your past customers instead of your customer sales team. And they only get paid when they actually do something. It's not like our employees, they can be sleeping in the corner, they're still getting paid. So what we've been able to create with that is a real live feedback. It's a direct and live feedback loop that's telling us what customers are wanting, what they're needing, and what they're satisfied with or not satisfied with. I mean, you're pretty at risk. I mean, this is to be transparent. You're letting those past customers tell future customers about you. So you better be damn good at what you do. And you're going to have some mad people. That's almost impossible to get around. People have false expectations sometimes, but they should have the right to express it. The good news about what I said, a 360 review, is the customer's like, I understand the shipping was a terrible experience, but what about the door? What about this? How is the rest? Is the quality there? They can really get a full perimeter rather than just a 1-star or a 5-star feedback.
So, Jeremy, how many of your customers that are coming in to buy a door today are going to talk to a prior customer of yours, and how ubiquitous is that in your sales process?
Yeah, so it's offered it's on every page. It says talk to a real customer right now. We'll give you $100 off your door for talking to a future customer or a past customer. To give you an example, we put through probably 12 million visitors to our website last year, or in the last 12 months, excuse me. And we close about 0.24%, 0.24, not 1%, 0.24%. So really low close rate. But I mean, again, I want you also to know that about 30+% of my website visitors are 13 and under. They just want their Barbie door and their Harry Potter door and whatever. So we love those. Well, I consider myself slightly the Marlboro man. I get them hooked to cigarettes before they're 18, but when they're old enough to buy a Murphy door, they can afford to buy that. So I'm all good with the kids coming in and dreaming.
So so it's like a cool form of entertainment for them.
Right. That they come in and they do it. They follow us on Instagram and TikTok. I think that's what drove us to so many views. But but what's great is I also see their future thoughts, and it's fun. So to give you an idea, when they fall through the pure brand funnel, it's right now at 41% conversion rate. So
Okay.
obviously it's lower down the funnel. But currently about 12 to 15 orders a day are processed through previous customers. It isn't our flagship marketing promotion because we do have outside sales teams and other things that we compete with.
Mhm.
It will be the lead banner to try to drive every client to that banner in the future, just because it is such a powerful tool for that client.
Yeah.
That system in itself is pretty awesome for future or for business owners. It ties into an app that they then ties into that customer's contact list that then we connect with other products that they've had, and we introduce friends to friends that say, hey, by the way, if they allow it like Venmo, hey, Peter, Jeremy has a Murphy door. Why don't you talk to him? I notice he's in your cell phone. Just talk to him. Right. So there's that side of it. There's product registration, warranty, and instructions. There's all sorts of cool things that are inside that, but um, and it's pretty cheap. We don't charge unless we sell.
Right. So it's really, I mean, there are a lot of benefits to that whole thing. First of all, the conversion rate's a lot higher. you keep track of your customers. You get a feedback loop immediately on
Immediately.
what's good and bad with the surveys you get. And then there's all this networking opportunity to create sort of like a network that's in your sort of ecosystem
Yep.
from which you can sell from. I think it's brilliant.
One more cool thing is it keeps track of occurrences when they're feeding it back and you hear these negatives. It
Yeah,
keeps track of how many times that occurrence has been said between all your calls. And then if you get a bad review, by the way, you'll get alerted and then it'll send you the video so you can watch it. And I can say this, that there's nothing like being a business owner when you're watching a past customer talk to a future customer and then you're like, no, don't say that. Like, did we really do that? Like, oh crap. Like, but then there's also something amazing, like, man, I love my Murphy door. Like, I didn't expect this, and they have a concierge service, and they followed me and held my hand and walked me through every process. Like, we bought it, and then the next thing you know, within 10 minutes, we got a call from them, and they're saying all sorts of stuff. So there's some cool parts about it. There's some really uneasy parts about it. But overall, the report you get back, like I said, you're getting a sentiment score on the call. You're getting the pros and cons from both sides of the call, and you're getting an action plan for every call. You can liven it up that much. So if you're an active company that's looking to improve product, improve your experience, this is really customer-driven product improvement. It is truly a customer-driven R&D platform that every company can have because they're getting that feedback loop of what R&D may not get, or they can tell you what they wish they had. Right. So
yeah,
it's just something that wasn't what it was supposed to be. It was just a showroom that I could not have to be in big box. It's created something and it's opened up a whole different element inside businesses that I didn't expect. So what that was leading into is where do we see ourselves in the future? That is much opened our eyes within the next 3 years that we want to be, well, our goal by 2030, I should say, is to have 20 manufacturing facilities within our hottest geographical areas that gives us 150 radius miles to deliver to our consumers with horizontally and vertically integrated installers around the country that can then have our products leave our manufacturing facility within 3 days and delivered to your home within 7 days and installed. That is our goal. It's very lofty. It includes everything from kitchen cabinets, bathroom cabinets, armoires, dressers, nightstands, doors, beds, etc. Anything that's a hardwood product. But even more difficult is that every single one of those products should have multifunction. Our whole Murphy mission is that we shouldn't have standalone singular use products in our home, especially as homes get smaller. We have to be really conscientious about that and work hard towards making everything be multi-valuable, not just single, like a door keeps you from seeing me change. Well, then all of a sudden, what if we could make that door be 27 cubic feet of storage that'll also do X, Y, and Z and be a door? Now we've taken away just dead wall space, created usable storage space, created a piece of furniture in your door and wall space, and made it function in more than one way. So let's say it's a shoe hamper and a laundry or a shoe rack and a laundry hamper with a mirror on it in the back. So now you've got a three pieces of furniture in your door that's actually in the same footprint of a normal door, and it took nothing out of your room. So
yeah.
that's how we think, and that's what we challenge our employees and I mean, I shouldn't say employees, but my team members here. They're freaking awesome. Like they truly have changed the way we are and who we are. It's far from just me. It's
Right.
awesome team members that we let be entrepreneurial in our office.
So lots to come around multi-purpose furniture, whatever
Homes,
homes. Yeah.
homes. Yeah.
So
Everything in your house should be looked that way.
yeah, it's going to have a ton of innovation.
Mhm.
Well, that's great. And then last question, which is
Yeah.
sort of levered off of that or comes out of that. If, as you look around at your whole company and your operation, what would be the one thing that you would like to see if you could solve it, it would open up, even greater scale and capability for you?
If there was one thing that I could solve in my operation that could open up scale,
Yeah.
truly the difficulty is this timeline to get the equipment that's required to scale the operation. And like there's this chicken and the egg game. When we know we can see the trend of what our operation growth is, currently we're running 67% year over year at this
Wow.
current time. And so we know kind of what our max throughput is every day and what our revenue per employee is and max, we know those numbers really well. We
Great.
have to do some pretty good guessing forward. and say, hey, let's hope that it trends and maintains. We have to find a location, which we've got dissected already. We know where we're going and when. Well, which order, I shouldn't say when, but we've got a pretty good idea of when. We know what order we're going in, 1, 2, 3. But what we don't have is the buildings. So what happens is if you're going to have a plant ordered, you have to have the footprint of the plant so you can manufacture the machines around the plant. And it's really hard, right? Because you have to go in and are you going to buy a building and lease it for a year? And there we're talking 50,000 square foot buildings at least to be able to put the plan in and let it just sit so then the engineers can go in and measure everything up and lay it out and do flow. So it's probably one of the more difficult things. I shouldn't say it's the most difficult thing, but if I could solve that solution, if it wasn't a year, man, we could scale much faster. A lot of our throttle has to do with our maximum output every day. The lower and closer you bring your lead times to an Amazon Prime experience, the faster the velocity of sales go through. It's not even, they're totally related. Like you extend lead times, the business slows down. You shorten lead times, business throttles, and it's not even a little bit. Like if you go from 2 weeks to 1 week, your business is going to increase 25 to 30%. You go to 1 week to 3 days, you're going to talk about the same thing. It's almost instantaneous, like ordering something on Prime that you're expecting 2-day delivery or whatever, overnight, whatever. We're getting pretty silly now where we're getting it the same day. But I mean, I can't get there that fast because we got paint to dry. But in the meantime, that's that would be really nice. If I could get that, that would be that would make me not lose so much sleep.
Right. Yeah. It's like it's laying out your plan for the future for demand that's a year out. And if you could do that, you could order the machines and you could grow that much more quickly.
Yeah, right. And if I had the building, right, I need the building and how much power the building has and what do I need to do for infrastructure. So that's it. But you know, that's the hardest thing is that for me.
Yeah.
I'm sure that the guys that you asked my COO or my CRO, they'd give you complete different answers, but that's where my head is.
Well, I mean, the fact that you're growing 67% a year or year to date or whatever the number is, it leads to capacity constraint and you're articulating a capacity constraint.
Yeah.
Uh, so great. So if somebody wants to know more about you and
Oh, I
Murphy,
got to show you one last thing, Peter.
oh
I got to
gosh.
show you this close.
Okay, well, let's
This
do
is
it.
a no money game, right? I want you to see it before anyone, especially being your background. So I bought this building in Kentucky, and I'm going to show you to the screen.
Yeah.
Here's the purchase price. I don't know if you can see it. It's 8,880,000.
Yes, I do see that.
Got the
Yes.
buyer seller. We did $200,000 in escrow.
Yes, see that.
The buyer to buyer. How much money did I get at closing?
Looks like positive 492,000, or is that the right answer?
492,000. So I got my escrow back. I got 492,000, no money down, bought the company for $1. The group that I bought went to the existing bank, picked up the mortgage at 4%. It was a mortgage that was to 2042 at
Nice.
4%. $1 in, $500,000 credit at close,
Yeah.
right? And ended up with 180,000 square feet and 15 acres. So this can happen. You don't have to have the money. You just have the creativity of how is it that I can acquire real estate, acquire that business, acquire whatever without the capital. This didn't require a credit score. The new LLC didn't carry. I bought the LLC that had the debt.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So
Got
it
the
is
best time to come
it's
along. Right.
creativity. And I was talking to my broker that did the deal. He's like, you told me you were going to do this. He goes, I just didn't believe it. I've been in business for 30 years from Chicago, sold 2 billion in real estate. And he goes, I can't believe you did it. Yeah, you told me they were going to give you money before you were done. And I'm like, yeah. And it's my third transaction that this has occurred. And I've got a fourth one up in Michigan that's about to occur that's on 426,000 square feet in the exact scenario. So I think, again, going back to the education piece, I never learned what was the right way to do something. I just had to learn how I could do something with my existing circumstances.
Yeah.
And I think we just need to challenge ourselves on just trying. People are so afraid of no and so afraid of failing that they just get paralyzed sitting at home afraid of it. Well, just get told no and just fail. Who gives two craps?
Yeah. Well, it's amazing what you've been able to do with the constraints that you've been that have been in front of you. And And look, you've now created a company that's flourishing, growing, it's setting all kinds of design and original idea standards. I think it's fantastic. So
Thank you so much.
kudos to you.
Appreciate it.
Last question, Murphy Door, they want to get a hold of you,
Yep.
Jeremy, or the company. What's the best way to do that
So
for?
you can, yeah, please. I appreciate you giving me that opportunity too. So it's at jbarker482 on Instagram, Murphy Door on Instagram. For my email, you can always email me at jbarker, the letter J, BARKER, at murphydoor.com. And then if you can follow me on LinkedIn, it's Jeremy G. Barker with a G like George. So
Great.
yeah.
Well, thank you for spending your time with me today, and thank you for the audience for listening. And until next time, we'll see you on the entrepreneur's journey.
Thank you so much, Peter. You have a wonderful weekend, sir.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see you when you get out here.
Yeah, same here.
Absolutely.